members of the religious community, members of civil society, distinguished invitees, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first apologize for what appears to be late notice. In fact, the original invitation went out to the private sector, and perhaps on my part there was a mistake. It was assumed as a private sector commission, but it meant civil society, so my apologies for not giving you long enough notice to be here. I've asked you to come this afternoon in the wake of a meeting this morning with the diplomatic corps to emphasize the government's commitment to holding and upholding the Constitution, to respecting the institutions of the state, including the National Assembly and the courts, to ensuring the rule of law, to safeguarding human and civil rights, and to preserving our democracy, especially through the conduct of free, fair, and credible local and general and regional elections. My friends, recent political developments have been subject to some misinterpretation and misrepresentation of the government's intentions, and they need to be clarified and explained. And this is what I hope to do this afternoon. Let us look first at the legal process. The government, since the passage of the no confidence motion in the National Assembly on the 21st of December 2018, sought to respect the decisions of the court. We have upheld the Constitution. We challenged the validity of the no confidence motion. We defended the challenge to the constitutionality of the appointment of the chairperson of the Elections Commission. The legal processes which we initiated were neither frivolous nor calculated to delay the consequences of the no confidence vote. They sought to explain more clearly and to interpret certain provisions of the Constitution. The legal challenges were taken to the Supreme Court, then to the Court of Appeal, and finally to the Caribbean Court of Justice, or final court. Let us look at the Supreme Court of Judicature. The government, through the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, filed a fixed date application on the 7th of January 2019, challenging the passage of the no confidence motion on the basis that the opposition did not secure a majority as required by the Constitution. The Attorney General, by way of the application, asked the court to determine whether the Speaker's declaration that the no confidence motion was carried by a majority in the National Assembly was unlawful, null, and void, on the basis that it contradicted the Constitution at Article 106. The Chief Justice, on the 31st of January, ruled that the no confidence motion was lawful. The Chief Justice ruled also that on the issue of dual citizenship, the vote of the former government member of Parliament who had voted in favor of the opposition motion was valid, although as a person holding dual citizenship, he was occupying a seat in the National Assembly in contravention of the Constitution. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, the government filed an appeal on the 5th of February 2019, challenging the Chief Justice's ruling. The Court of Appeal, on the 22nd of March 2019, by a majority, ruled that the no confidence motion against the government was invalid. The Court of Appeal ruled, additionally, that a person holding dual citizenship was not entitled to be a member of the National Assembly. My government, in accordance with the court's ruling, replaced 4 ministers of the cabinet. who held dual citizenship. It was very painful, but he obeyed the court. Then we go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. The parliamentary opposition filed an appeal on the 27th of March asking the Caribbean Court of Justice to issue an order to direct that general and regional elections be held in the shortest possible time if the court found that the no confidence motion was validly passed. The Caribbean Court of Justice on the 18th of June declared that the no confidence motion in the government was valid, and on the 12th of July issued its consequential orders, a copy of which I think you have with you. The court declared that the provisions of the Constitution apply to a no confidence motion, and that the government member of parliament who voted to support the opposition motion was ineligible to be elected to the assembly by virtue of his citizenship of another state, and that his vote on the motion of no confidence was valid. The Caribbean Court of Justice has made no coercive orders. The government is therefore not in contravention of the orders of the court or of the Constitution. The court declared inter alia on the 12th of July, and I quote, Article 106 of the Constitution invests in the President and the National Assembly, and implicitly in the Elections Commission, responsibilities that impact on the precise timing of the elections, which must be held. It would not therefore be right for the court, by the issuance of coercive orders or detailed directives, to presume to instruct these bodies on how they must act, and therefore preempt the performance by them of their constitutional responsibilities. It is not, for example, the role of the court to establish a date on or by which the elections must be held, or to lay down timelines and deadlines that, in principle, are the preserve of political actors guided by constitutional imperatives. These are the words of Justice Adrian Saunders, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. It would not therefore be right for the court, by the issuance of coercive orders or detailed directives, to presume to instruct these bodies on how they must act. So, there is no date issued by the CCJ. There are no timelines, there are no deadlines. The president of the CCJ declared that the process applied to appoint the chairman of the Election Commission was flawed, void, and in breach of the Constitution. I, in accordance with the court ruling, accepted the resignation of the chairman. I then embarked on a process to engage the leader of the opposition to select a new chairman. My friends, as you are aware, the Constitution, that Article 161, states that the chairman of the Election Commission shall be a person who holds or who has held the office of a judge of a court, having unlimited jurisdiction in civil and criminal matters in some part of the Commonwealth, or a court having jurisdiction in appeals from any such court, who is qualified to be appointed as any such judge or any other fit and proper person to be appointed by the President from a list of 6 persons not unacceptable to the President, submitted by the leader of the opposition after meaningful consultation with the non-governmental political parties represented in the National Assembly. The CCJ, in its ruling of the 18th of June, proposed, however, and I quote again, before a list is submitted, the leader of the opposition and the president must, a strong four-letter word, which does not accommodate any variation or misunderstanding. The leader of the opposition and the president must communicate with each other in good faith on, and perhaps even meet to discuss eligible candidates for the position of chairman. The aim of these discussions must be to agree the names of 6 persons who fit the stated eligibility requirements and who are not unacceptable to the president. My friends, I've acted in good faith. I met the leader of the opposition twice since the CCJ issued its rulings. First on the 4th of July, and again on the 16th of July. And I will meet him again and again until a chairman is appointed. The government and the opposition appointed 2 teams to continue the process of identifying nominees for the position of chairman of the Elections Commission. These teams met 4 times between the 8th and the 17th of July. The CCJ's ruling of the 18th of July also stated, once the president and leader of the opposition have hammered out a list of names not unacceptable to the president, the list comprising the 6 persons must then formally be submitted to the president by the leader of the opposition. And the president must then select the chairman from among those names. The CCJ emphasized that this approach gives the president a role in the identification of the 6 names. The CCJ has interpreted the provisions of the Constitution as ascribing a role for the president in identifying persons for consideration as chairman. In other words, the president is not a passive bystander to the process. He is an active participant in hammering out the list of persons not unacceptable to him. Ladies and gentlemen, I had the reasonable expectation that the government's recommendations would have been accorded serious consideration during the consensual process. I have advised the leader of the opposition that any list emerging out of a process which does not accord serious consideration to the government's recommendations in the spirit of the Caribbean Court of Justice would be spurious, and that I would have great difficulty in accepting such a list. Ladies and gentlemen, your government is committed to complying with the orders of the courts. We are committed to ensuring the expeditious appointment of the chairman of the Elections Commission. We are committed to having fair, free and credible elections as early as possible. The Elections Commission at present, however, is without a quorum owing to the absence of a chairman. My government will continue to act in good faith to ensure that the chairman, not unacceptable to the president, is appointed so as to ensure democratic elections as early as possible. Free, fair and credible elections are essential to representative democracy, but can be assured only if certain minimum conditions are met. These conditions include an independent and functional elections commission, an acceptable and credible official list of electors, and an efficient and competent secretariat to manage those elections in accordance with the Constitution. No other agency or organ of the state has responsibility for elections. Only the Elections Commission. The independence of the Elections Commission is safeguarded by the Constitution. It is insulated from political influence, instruction, and interference. The President cannot influence. The President cannot instruct. The President cannot interfere. The President cannot tell the Election Commission when the elections must be held. Neither can the courts. The Constitution charges the Commission with the conduct of elections. It is written at Article 62, elections shall be independently supervised by the Elections Commission in accordance with the provisions of Article 162. Then we go to Article 162, which states that, and I quote, the Elections Commission shall have such functions connected with or relating to the registration of electors or the conduct of elections as are conferred upon it by or under this Constitution, or subject thereto, any act of Parliament, and subject to the provisions of this Constitution. The Commission shall exercise general direction and supervision over the registration of electors and the administrative conduct of all elections of members to the National Assembly, and shall issue such instructions and take such actions as appear to it necessary or expedient to ensure impartiality, fairness, and compliance with the provisions of this Constitution, or of any act of Parliament on the part of persons exercising powers or performing duties connected with or relating to the matters aforesaid. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary in the Constitution, if the Elections Commission is satisfied that the holding of an election pursuant to the provisions of paragraph 2 of Article 60 or Article 162 on the day appointed therefore will be attended either generally or in a particular area by danger or serious hardship, it may, after consultation with the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition, by notice published in the Gazette, postpone the holding of the election to a day specified in the notice, or postpone the voting in any specified area in the notice to a day to be so specified. This is exactly what happened in Nigeria. Not the President, but the Election Commission, 2 o'clock in the morning, postponed the election. The President couldn't instruct. The President couldn't interfere. The President couldn't intrude. The Election Commission has total control of the electoral process. Ladies and gentlemen, the credibility of elections is dependent in part on the integrity of the official list of electors. A corrupted or contaminated list can undermine the electoral process, encourage mischief, and malpractice, and result in the elections being vitiated. The proclamation of an unrealistic date for elections or the adoption of an unacceptable official list of electors will impair the credibility of elections. A new list needs to be constituted, and it has been recommended that this should be done through a process of house-to-house registration. House-to-house registration is an efficient and credible process. The Elections Commission in 2019 had requested funding for its planned house-to-house registration upon the expected expiration of the then existing list of electors, which eventually expired on the 30th of April 2019. So the Election Commission was ahead of the game and requested financing from the government. The National Assembly approved funding of $5.371 billion in November 28, 2018, before the no confidence motion, for house-to-house registration. And after the no confidence motion, the National Assembly approved an additional $3.482 billion in March. In all, the government has ensured that the Election Commission received $8.53 billion in order to do its work. The government has not withheld financing from the Elections Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, elections will not be practicable unless the Elections Commission is prepared. It is for the Elections Commission to advise the President on its readiness to conduct free, fair, and credible elections. It would be reckless and irresponsible on my part to name a date for elections without the Commission's assurance and advice that it would be ready to conduct elections on such a date. My government is keen to have elections in the shortest possible time. It has to be satisfied, however, that the bases for the holding of free, fair, and credible elections exist. We will continue in the interim to uphold the Constitution, comply with the orders of the court, and act in good faith in the consensual process to appoint a chairman of the Elections Commission. And finally, I turn to the political process. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to advise that in the wake of the passage of the no confidence motion in December 2018, and following the CCJ rulings and orders in June and July 2019, I have taken several actions in order to ensure a swift settlement of the controversy. Meeting the leader of the opposition in January 2019, meeting the Elections Commission, accepting the resignation of 4 cabinet ministers in April 2019. I made 3 broadcasts to the nation on the 18th of June and on the 9th and 12th of July on the acceptance by the government of the CCJ's rulings and orders, accepting the resignation of the chairman of the Elections Commission on the 25th of June, meeting the leader of the opposition on the 4th and 16th of July, establishing a joint government opposition working group, which has already met 4 times, presenting our case by telephone to the Commonwealth Secretary General, presenting our case to the CARICOM chairman, again by telephone, meeting the diplomatic corps this morning, 25th of July. There has, my friends, been strong resistance by the opposition to the plan by the Elections Commission to correct the list of electors, which has expired, using the process of house-to-house registration, which is their right to do. There has been resistance by the opposition to adopting the procedure for the selection of the chairman of the Elections Commission by a consensual rather than a unilateral process. I assure you that I shall remain engaged in working towards ensuring that the Elections Commission receive the support it requires to conduct credible elections in the shortest possible time. The government of Guyana accepts that it is an interim administration and that it must continue, however, to provide public services. The Constitution at Article 106 states that notwithstanding its defeat in the National Assembly, the government shall remain in office and shall hold an election the government has made it clear that during this interim period, it will restrain the exercise of its legal authority and prepare for the holding of general and regional elections by the Elections Commission. The government will continue only its routine management of the country. It will address urgent issues that are in the public interest, but will not initiate projects which are controversial or which are irreversible. It will be prepared also to continue to consult with the opposition on matters which require the agreement of both sides. It will not produce a new budget, and it will not engage in action which do not meet the criteria laid down for an interim administration. The processes which have led us to this present juncture may seem to have been protracted, but they are necessary. They are necessary to ensure the functioning of the Constitution. They are necessary for the preservation of justice and the peace and prosperity of Guyana. I believe that we have taken action which has fortified democracy. The holding of free, fair, and credible elections as soon as possible will make our democracy stronger. I thank you for coming this afternoon, and I hope that I've been clear.